Welcome to the Leadership in VUCA Times. Today, I have somebody who started his journey not on the corporate floors, but in a post office when he was just 18 years old. Over the years, he moved on to an organization that led him to Philippines. He came here 22 years ago, the time when the BPO industry in Philippines was just blooming. There were few thousand of people here in the Philippines. Now those numbers are in millions. Somebody who was chief people officer in one of the largest BPO companies in the Philippines, managing more than 60,000 people. I'm going to welcome Jeffrey Johnson, JJ, better known as JJ. Welcome, JJ.
Thank you, Shweta. It's so nice to be here. I'm so excited.
JJ, when we started thinking about this podcast, there were so many things. Something that really stood out for me, which you spoke of, was growing with intention. We'd love to delve deeper into it, but I really want to know your story.
When I look back on my career journey, and having the conversation with you was actually kind of an amazing walk back in time, because I think about how, as a very young person, just out of high school, I immediately entered the workforce. And as a teenager at that time, it was quite daunting to enter the United States Postal Service. And I felt at that time, am I going to be successful? Is this something that I'm going to be able to do? Especially considering most of my coworkers were double my age. And so that was quite an experience, but it was also a huge growth opportunity for me, because it's where I really understood how important culture is in an organization.
And that's when you decided not to stay in United Postal Services. Tell me, what was that?
Yeah, it was a very hard decision because, most people enter USPS and stay forever. It's basically a job for life. And I was so excited. I had grown up, always been being very passionate about the idea of letter writing. And so the post office was like a perfect fit for me. And no shade at all, of course, to the post office. But I just realized that culture written on a wall and culture in a handbook is very different than culture actually applied. And when that happened, I realized that, hey, this doesn't mean that it's a bad fit. It just means it's a bad fit for me. And even at a young age, I was able to determine how important culture was for me.
And this led you to Teleperformance, now better known as TP.
Yeah. So there was a little break in between. I relocated to a different place, and as I relocated to a new place, I was lucky to be able to find TP. Actually, I had a few employers that I was focused on, and as soon as I entered TP, I realized that this was a place where the workforce was really young and excited, and there was a culture of, hey, we've got to do big things and solve big problems. And when I felt that, I immediately felt right at home.
I believe this is where you got the chance to move to Philippines, which is 22 years ago? Yeah,
just a little over 22 years ago. And it was, the Philippines was just starting at that time, and as an offshore destination.
Anything particular you remember about that moment when you decided to move to the Philippines?
Yeah, it was, looking back on it now, it was quite a leap of faith, if you think about it, because, 19-year-old who didn't have any experience. I'd never left the country before. And thinking back, I'm like, whoa, what were you thinking, Jeffrey? But now I'm so grateful that at a very young age, sometimes you just decide to do things that may be risky, but I'm so grateful that happened.
Let's get into the heart of our conversation.
Sure.
You spoke about growing with intentions. What does that look like, JJ, to you and in the industry and for the leaders?
Yeah. That's a great question, because if you think about growing with intention, it means knowing where you want to go and being patient enough to execute on what needs to be done in order to make that happen. And that does mean that building that patience into what you do is really important, because if you're in a rush or if you're in a hurry, you may actually be taking career paths that don't align to your values, your personal values, but you're doing it just for growth. And so slowing down a little bit, understanding what it is you want to accomplish in your life is a huge step in the right direction.
JJ, you also mentioned Gen Z understands this very well.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. That was a very interesting point.
Yeah, I've been so impressed with some of the younger generations. For millennials and boomers, there was this hustle culture where you put 100% in. And the newer generations are really looking at that and saying, is that what's aligning to what I want to do? It very much could mean that it's aligned, but at the same time, it may not be. Maybe there's a approach that works different for that person. And for me, that's really exciting, and actually it gives me a lot of hope when you think about the future, because what it tells me is that people are better connected to what they want, and what they want to drive their life forward is a powerful thought, and it's something that for the rest of their lives, they're going to be able to capitalize on.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. It's a lot like key to setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, and understanding that life is a journey of stops and starts. There's peaks and valleys. There's obviously going to be some periods of your life where everything's firing on all cylinders, and you feel really motivated and happy and excited about what's happening, both career and in your personal life. But then also embracing the fact that they're going to have some valleys, and those valleys are going to be times where you struggle, where things don't go perfectly. And your goal in life is to be able to take those valleys as learning opportunities and work to try to move yourself out of them as quickly as you can, while still absorbing the learning that happens in those valleys. And as you take that journey, you're going to be able to kind of become a more well-rounded and a holistic person and leader. Don't let other people influence what your roadmap is. And from a coaching journey, that's also very important, because coaching philosophy teaches that individuals have the best answers within themselves. So it's not about the coach telling the person what to do. It's about the person deciding what's best for them. And you as a coach help bring that out.
JJ, during our first conversation, you did share something very, very personal with me, and it left a huge mark on me. The importance of personal vision statement when you said, I strive to be a thoughtful, organized, and conscious leader. It's such a powerful thing. It stayed with me. Tell me more about it. What do these 3 words mean to you?
Yeah, thank you. Years ago, I took a course and they asked us to write down our personal kind of vision, mission statement combined as one. And it had to be short, and it had to be something that you could memorize yourself. And I spent a lot of time thinking about who it was that I wanted to be. And every day, I could do things that could help me drive myself towards that vision. And what came to me was those 3 words really popped out. I wanted to be thoughtful. I wanted to make sure that other people around me knew that I had a heart, and that I cared. And sometimes in leadership, you're taught things different than that. And so I wanted that to be clear. I want to be thoughtful. I also wanted to make sure that I was organized, because sometimes the best intentions don't really lead you in the right path if you're not organized around getting those things done. And I wanted my teams and for myself to understand that organization was going to help us drive the execution culture that we needed to deliver on. And the last one was conscious. And what I was looking for there was really understanding that every decision that I made was going to have an impact. And so going into the day with open eyes, understanding that the energy that I brought, both to my personal relationships and to my teams, that energy was going to be able to impact other people, both positive and negative. And so for many years, I had a poster on my wall in the office, and it said, "Attitudes are contagious. Is yours worth catching?" And so I would just remind myself first, every single day when I walked in, I would remind myself, is my attitude worth catching? Is the attitude that I have the attitude that I want my teams to have? So when people, may have been struggling, I would ask, what attitude do we want? Is it worth catching?
Attitudes are contagious. That's really, really powerful.
And so one thing I did was I took a label maker and I printed it off, because it's just a one sentence. It's, I strive to be an thoughtful, organized, and conscious leader. And I printed it off and put it right on my monitor, so that every single day when I came to work, I would see it right on my monitor. And it was a reminder to, hey, you're not going to be perfect and you're going to make mistakes, but here's where you want to go.
JJ, you also spoke about culture, importance of culture, the fact that you could understand culture right from your first job. You've also spoken about the fact that culture can't stay at the leadership layer.
Yes.
It has to percolate down. It has to be led with the frontline leaders.
Yeah.
Tell me more about it and the role of growing with intentions.
That's a great question, Shweta, because if you think about it, most leaders come into their positions with great intentions. I once had a leader challenge me that said, nobody comes as a leader to try to do a bad job. And that's so true. Nobody does. They don't try to do a bad job. But sometimes the output doesn't meet what the organization needs or what you personally want to accomplish. And so I always take a lot of empathy when I look at leadership objectives, because I understand that there's a good intention there. And now it's about making sure that that intention percolates within the organization so that you're able to take that vision and people are able to join along with it. And that's way easier said than done, because if you think about it, especially in larger organizations, that's about convincing thousands of people to understand your vision and then to be connected to that vision and be able to execute on it. And that's asking a lot for young leaders. And I think about even my own personal journey and thinking about the goals that were set for me in my leadership journey. And I understand how hard that is. And so when we approach it with empathy and we understand that, hey, our frontline leaders are not going to be perfect, but let's equip them with what they need. Let's make sure to spend the time to educate and train, and not normally through a formal training session. It's normally through the culture that we observe. So if you're implementing programs to improve culture, check what's happening at that frontline leadership level. That's going to be a great barometer of where you're at.
And you also, in our discussion, you also said that learning and development is also a listening tool. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, and all of those tools are in your arsenal and they all add value. And so I've always said, bring everything. If you want to know culture, bring everything. But one of the most valuable things that I could think back on was listening to the feedback from our leaders, because the leaders were at the front line understanding exactly what was happening, not what we thought was happening. And sometimes too at the frontline level, that the feedback can be a little bit skewed. Yeah. And so it's really important to see what your supervisors and your managers are thinking, and get the feedback from them, because then you're getting a pretty pure understanding of what's actually happening.
And I also believe you built a lot of emerging leadership programs.
Well, that program is one of our biggest accomplishments and achievements over these many years. And over the years, it's just been such an amazing accomplishment that being able to see people get out of their shells, also the skills that were built that you may not have thought of traditionally, things like trust, things like standards and quality. These are things that sometimes get forgotten about when you get at higher levels in an organization. And so it was really just an amazing opportunity for those leaders, and continues to be.
It doesn't sound like something that you do in certain corporate boardrooms for a day or two. It is continuous learning and building that ability to stay lifelong learner.
Yeah, this is, anybody who knows me knows that this is a topic I'm very passionate about, just because I don't think learning ever stops. And that, for me, the topic of lifelong learning is one that anybody who sits down next to me will know I could go on forever about, but I'm so passionate about it because I know how much it can change people's lives.
So true. And we will talk about the small learnings and the deep learning skills which are required. We just touched upon that. But now let's talk about AI. You've been very direct with me. That is going to change people's life. It's going to change the way roles will change. Having said this, AI is not here to intimidate you. AI is here to help you grow.
Yeah, I think this is it kind of goes back to the attitudes. If you approach AI with an attitude of this is bad and this is going to take away my job or this is going to hurt humanity, then I think that's probably the direction that you're going to go, and it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you also approach AI from an approach of, hey, how can AI help make my position better? How I can grow from this? What can I learn about these new technologies that are going to revolutionize the work that I do? And when you have that approach, there are real disruptions that are coming and that have already happened. And people who are going to, put a pillowcase over your head and just go hide, those are the people that the reality of AI is going to be negative. But for people who are going to say, hey, this is something I'm going to take on, it's going to require a lot of adjustment. And there's definitely things that some people are doing today that are going to completely change. And when you accept and embrace that and you move forward, I'm actually quite optimistic about what can happen as long as humans decide to take control and take the reins. But definitely sitting back is not going to deliver good results for anyone.
Yeah, and you're so right. You gave a very concrete example as well, JJ, that what would typically take you 3-4 weeks to create a policy, a talent policy, HR policy, AI can do that within 30 minutes and help you focus on something that really...
Yeah, I mean, because it's so practical, especially in the human resources field. We spend a lot of time developing policies, procedures, memos. These are things that it's just part of life. Yet a lot of time goes into that. And using tools that can help streamline that process, I think is a great example of how we can free up people's resources and time to be able to spend on higher value functions. So building human connection, building empathy, understanding the emotional intelligence of our teams, and then being able to take that and make sure that we craft the policies that will help drive that forward. Yet, if we're spending all of our time on these menial functions, then for sure there's not going to be time to be able to do that. And in today's world, organizations they're being asked to do more and more and do it more and more efficiently. And so using tools to help you accomplish those goals, especially tools like AI, are really transformational. Setting up those parameters, making sure that you don't just feed it a bunch of junk is also going to be really important so that you get good product out of it.
Yes, and we did discuss about the importance of setting up guardrails, not after doing the implementation, but before doing it. And that was a very interesting point of view. JJ, would you like to tell our audience about that point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe that there needs to be intention that's put into it. You cannot come into this blind. And so set up what are our ethics as an organization before we start utilizing these tools. What do we want to accomplish for the people, for our clients, for our customers? And when you set that out very clearly, you're going to be able to then develop those guardrails. So here's where these tools are going to add value towards our vision and mission. And here's where the tools are not. And so if our goal is only to, let's say, eliminate human resources, then that may be misaligned to what your vision and mission is. So, but if the goal is to enhance and be able to level up and provide better support and services, then here's where we can implement these tools. So coming into that with some intention, spending the time to build the guardrails before you jump in, it's kind of like an important step to make sure that you're aligned as an org.
And now we're going to come to your favorite subject, something that you said you can talk for hours at end. The Lifelong Learner's Manifesto. You spoke something which really touched my heart, and I'm seeing this happening very often, which is how people are embracing learning culture as thinking, doing fractional skills. And you very beautifully articulated the importance of deep skills learning as well. Walk me through that. That was very interesting.
Yeah, thanks for that great question. I've always believed that learning is something that you need to take the reins on and own yourself. And organizations can help guide, they can provide resources, but personal learning is something that you own. And so when you think about a lifelong journey of learning, that isn't something that's going to happen through short clips. And, clips can be great ways to be a hook, to learn little basic concepts. But I really do believe that we have started losing this deep knowledge of topics. And I'm trying my best to be able to share the message of we need to get back to things like reading books. Books that can enrich our leadership journey, enrich our personal lives. When you've finished a book, you've invested 20 or 30 hours of your life into a topic. And that's very different than watching a 15-minute YouTube video. And I think that YouTube is going to have, or podcasts, they're going to be able to enrich that. But don't ever forget about that deep learning. The learning and taking courses as well, where you invest sometimes weeks or months of your life. These are really valuable skills that in the age of AI are even more important because having that deep understanding is going to differentiate you from the masses of other people who just have very surface level information.
And something very beautifully that you summarized, you said, fractional skills will get you through a conversation. Deep skills will get you through a crisis.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and that in any organization, I think there's examples of that where, people come in with a really strong resume, but when they're asked to actually execute on something very complex, sometimes it's not as impressive as you thought. And so that's where I always have appreciated the fact that the people who have lived in the trenches, the people who have already executed on those skills, they have this warrior mentality where, hey, I've done this. I've built that thickness in my skin, and now I'm ready to be able to execute. And I just appreciate those skills. And the very best way for you to get those skills is to put yourself out there.
Speaking of books, first of all, thank you so much for giving me this amazing book, No Hard Feelings, The Secret Power of Embracing Emotions at Work. And when you said, attitudes are infectious, people embrace. And we also spoke about the fact that how people get impacted by your energies. We transmit energies, not only words, not only actions. And you spoke something also that you genuinely feel in the age of AI, everybody should definitely read books.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I believe that when you look at the future, we're going to be navigating a lot of human emotions with disruptions that are going to happen. And the people who are better able to navigate those emotions are the people who are going to be able to guide organizations, who are going to be able to take people along on the journey, which is sometimes going to feel scary. And so the more leaders that we have that are connected to empathy, that are connected to emotional intelligence, those leaders are going to be able to drive the types of changes that we're looking for that are positive. And if you're not able to relate to the way people are feeling, those are the types of organizations that I think will become more and more irrelevant in today's world.
Thank you so much for your time, JJ. Just one last question. If you were to leave a short sentence for the leaders and the lifelong learners, what would that be?
My message would be to make sure to know your vision. Stick to your vision and understand that that's your guiding principle. Remember that there can be a lot of noise in the world, and sometimes we can have a lot of distractions. But when you have your vision written down, and when you're able to execute towards that vision, you're going to be able to do amazing things with your life. And that's an exciting prospect for anybody. And so by taking that time and by writing those things down, you're going to be able to do amazing things.
I'm going to open the field for our audience. Right underneath this video, you would see a form. First 10 responders will have an opportunity to have a workshop with JJ to write their personal statements and personal vision. With that, I'm going to really thank you, JJ. The way you think about people, importance of emotions, ability to grow with intention, what it really looks like, what is the meaning of true growth, has been very, very deep for me. It was a pleasure meeting you the first time and here as well. And the image that I carry from today are just those 3 words. Ability to stay thoughtful, be organized, because just dreams will not get you anywhere. You have to act upon those as well. And conscious of the ripple effect one action makes for the world. Thank you so much, JJ. Is there anything that you would like to tell our audience?
No, thank you for having me here today. It's been such an amazing conversation, and congratulations on the audience that you're reaching. And I really look forward to seeing how all of the individuals listening to today's session are able to apply those into their everyday lives. So
thank you so much. And I'm sure I would see so many people getting inspired by you.
Thank you.